Hello and welcome to another episode of Humans in 5.
The discovery of fossils is always something to celebrate, not only because they can give us more information about the evolution of our species, but also because the formation of a fossil and our discovery of it is an incredibly lucky event.
In Harbin, China in 1933, a Chinese man who was forced to help build a bridge by occupying Japanese forces across the Songhua River was part of one of those lucky events. This man found a partially buried skull in the riverbank. He wrapped the skull up and hid it in a well for decades before recently telling his family about the skull's location. His family found it and donated it to the Geoscience Museum of Hebei GEO University.
The skull was examined by paleontologist Dr. Chiang Ji, who along with his team gave the skull the species name Homo longi, which translates to dragon man. One of the challenges with learning more about this fossil was that it lacked any contextual data. Because the skull was removed from its original burial place without any notes on how deep it was buried, its location, or the type of soil surrounding it, researchers had to think of other ways to estimate the age of this fossil.
G and his team worked with researchers from Griffith University in Australia to carry out geochemical analyses on some of the soil that was found in the nose cavity of the skull. Results of these tests dated the skull to between 138,000 to 309,000 years ago.
The skull is remarkably well preserved and more or less complete, another rarity with fossil finds. Paleoanthropologist Shijun Ni of the Chinese Academy of Sciences and Hebei GEO University was initially puzzled when it came to identifying possible species links in this fossil. The massive skull had a brain size comparable to that of modern humans, but it couldn't be a member of Homo sapiens because it had larger, almost square eye sockets, thick brow ridges, a wide mouth, and a huge molar tooth.
When comparing the size and dimension of the skull to other fossils within the human lineage, Ni found that the Harbin skull shared the largest number of characteristics with a jawbone from the Xia cave in the Tibetan plateau. Analyses of the Xia fossil suggest that it is a Denisovan, a close relative of Neanderthals who lived in the Denisova cave in Siberia, off and on from 280,000 years ago to 55,000 years ago.
Other researchers commenting on the fossil seem to agree that it could be the skull of a Denisovan, which is an exciting addition to the very little knowledge we currently have about this group of hominids.
There are also other scholars suggesting that designating the Harbin skull as an entirely new species is a little premature. Quite a few of the features of the Harbin skull look very similar to skulls in the Homo genus from the Pleistocene in China, which may mean it's another example of the wide variation we see in our genus.
Another thing worth noting here is the political context of fossil analysis. There's often a tendency for Eurocentric perspectives on fossil analysis to be highlighted over the work of Asian scholars, even when paleoanthropology is an active area of research in many Asian institutions. It's worth keeping this in mind when we look at how new fossil finds are being reported around the world.
This skull from Harbin remains an exciting find and could very well be the first time we get to look into the eyes of a Denisovan. So we're looking forward to more news about this new member of the family.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Humans in 5.
And don't forget to subscribe!